is Encounter Daily, where we just hop in and we grab just one bite-sized piece of the Bible, just one chapter, and unpack just a handful of truths that can be a benefit to us today. And as we do this over 2024, we're going to go through the entire New Testament. So that's going to be a great accomplishment. It's a great accomplishment for anybody, but especially if you've never spent much time with the Bible before, I'm excited to go on that journey with you all. So today's pretty cool. I mean, I think everyone in the world can agree that Jesus was a great teacher. His teachings have shaped the lives of billions of people and set a standard for morality that's recognized and applauded, even by those who don't believe in his divinity. They still recognize that this was a pretty good teacher. I mean, have you heard any of these things? You're the salt of the earth. You're the light of the world. You can't serve both God and money. Take the plank out of your neighbor's eye take the speck out of your eye. Okay, let me start over. Take the plank out of your eye before you take the speck out of somebody else's. If somebody strikes you on one cheek, turn to them the other one also. Love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. Love your neighbor as yourself. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I mean, many of these greatest teachings of Jesus are known by everybody, whether they really know much about Jesus or not. And they've been gathered together in a sermon. It's the most famous sermon ever preached on earth. It's called the Sermon on the Mount. It takes a full 3 chapters of the book of Matthew. And right at the center of this sermon, as Jesus teaches his disciples and us how to pray, we find the actual mission statement of the kingdom. Father, may your will be done and your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. So this is the 5th day of our 2024 New Testament series. And so far every day, I've done much of the unpacking up front, and I'm going to change that up today. I feel like we have a really unique and beautiful opportunity here in the Sermon on the Mount, frankly, to, I hope this doesn't sound too dramatic, to encounter Jesus. I mean, I'm here as a part of a team of people who have a vision to start a new kind of community. We've all encountered this Jesus, whose words we're about to listen to. And it's really changed everything for us. And we are online people. And we know that Jesus can be encountered online. So if you're following us along with us in this journey through the New Testament, I just want to remind you that that's the point. I know at least when I approach the scriptures, I can be eager to jump to, well, what does this actually mean? How can I understand this? How do I apply it to my life? And of course, that's all good. But nothing is as good or as important as simply encountering Jesus. I mean, you'll hear me say this a lot. Just one encounter with Jesus can change everything. So I thought we'd just let him speak today. I'm going to begin today by reading through Matthew chapter 5, and I'm going to do my best not to read it like somebody reading out of the Bible, but perhaps as Jesus would speak to his listeners. And as you listen, I want to invite you into a little meditation exercise. Maybe you should start by closing your eyes so you're not looking at my mug. Maybe picture yourself on a hillside somewhere. The Sea of Galilee is in the distance. You can not so much hear, but sense and see the presence of thousands of people around you who've gathered to listen to this teacher. You don't know much about him, but everyone's silent in anticipation. And so before I begin reading this, let me just have a simple prayer. Jesus, you encounter us. And this is Matthew chapter 5. Now, when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up to a mountainside and sat down. His disciples came to him, and he began to teach them. He said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, falsely say all kinds of evil things against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way, they persecuted the prophets who were before you. You are the light of the world. A city that's built on a hill can't be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. No, instead, they put it on a lampstand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I've not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, not the least stroke of a pen will by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished. Therefore, anyone who sets aside one of the least of these commands and teaches others to do so will be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches these commands I give you will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you that unless your righteousness surpasses those of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. You have heard that it was said to the people long ago, you shall not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, Raka, is answerable to the court. But anyone who says, you fool, will be in danger of the fire of hell. And therefore, if you're offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First, go and be reconciled to them, and then come and offer your gift. Settle matters quickly with your adversary who's taking you to court. Do it while you're still together on the way, or your adversary may hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer. You may be thrown into prison. Truly, I tell you, you will not get out until you've paid the last penny. And you have heard that it was said, you will not commit adultery. But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out, throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be subject to judgment. If your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than your whole body to go into hell. It has been said, anyone who divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce. I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife except for sexual immorality makes her the victim of adultery, and anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Again, you've heard it said to the people long ago, do not break your oath, but fulfill to the Lord the vows you have made to him. But I tell you, don't swear an oath at all, either by heaven, for it's God's throne, or by the earth, it's his footstool, or by Jerusalem, it's the city of the great king. Don't swear by your head, for you can't even make one hair white or black. All you need to say is simply yes or no. Anything beyond that comes from the evil one. And you have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, don't resist an evil person. If someone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. If anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, hand over your coat as well. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. Give to the one who asks you. Do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. And you have heard it said, love your neighbor, but hate your enemy. No, I tell you, love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good. He sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you just love those who love you, what reward will you get? Aren't even the tax collectors doing that? If you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than others? Even pagans do that. Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. And that's the end of Matthew chapter 5. Yeah, I hope I adjusted the volume correctly. I didn't see that in chat until I had already begun, that the music was a little loud. Could somebody give me a thumbs up if this is the right music mix and it sounds better? I'm glad we took the time to do that. And I feel like not only has this moment been an invitation to encounter Jesus, but that invitation extends throughout the day. Man, I'm sure that as you listen to these words from Jesus, it probably occurred to you that I'm not going to be even able to scratch the surface of explaining these in just the next few minutes. I mean, there's almost every line you could talk about for hours. So meditate on these words throughout the day. Most importantly, invite Jesus to explain them to you. I think a great thing to say to Jesus would be, Jesus, show me what that means. In case it's not already clear, he is the perfect teacher. Thanks for that feedback. Let me get my mic a little bit. I think maybe my mic might be off axis. Is that better? Did that fix the problem? Sorry about these technical difficulties. All right, I do have 3 observations about the kingdom that I want to make from Matthew chapter 5. Go through these as quickly as possible. The first one is the kingdom is for the hurting and the hungry. I mean, that's not usually who you think a kingdom is for. Where do you see God's blessing springing to life in this text? Is it among the rich and the powerful? No, it's among the poor, among those who feel crushed and defeated, trapped or tormented. Jesus doesn't say the kingdom is breaking loose for those who are content and have it all together, but for those who yearn for him and for his ways in their life and for his kingdom on earth. God's kingdom is beginning with these sorts of people. And that doesn't mean that the rich can't be part of the kingdom. Jesus says that they can, but he also says that they have more of an obstacle. They don't recognize their own need, like the poor in spirit. He says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for they will inherit the kingdom. The poor in spirit, I don't think means those who are going around moping and despondent. I think it's those who recognize they have a spiritual need that's just not being met. And the important thing to recognize about these blessed are, these are called the Beatitudes. They aren't just blessings, they're promises. If you are poor in spirit, if you recognize that you have spiritual need and want that satisfied, yours is the kingdom of heaven. It's a promise. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Remember, righteousness is a church word, but it just means a right relationship with God. If you're hungry for a right relationship with God, here's the good news: you'll be filled. If you're hungry for that, you will be filled. It's a promise. And the fulfillment of these promises is a blessing for you. But most importantly, I think Jesus points out it's a blessing for the sake of others. The earth or the world. He says, you are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. It's for everyone. You're supposed to have an impact in the world. The world, basically he's saying the world needs what I have blessed you with. Like you are the salt of the earth. What does that even mean? Jesus, please. It's interesting. He says later, when salt has lost its saltiness, it's good for nothing but to be thrown out and walked on. When you look at the original language, it actually says when salt has become foolish. So basically, Jesus is equating salt and what it does to wisdom. You are the wisdom of the earth. And those of us who understand the ways and the mind of God can be sprinkled over culture to do what salt does, to be a preservative or to bring flavor. You are the light, not of yourself, not of your household, of the world. Basically, he shares his glory and his position to us, those of us who follow him and who are in the kingdom, so that we can illuminate and attract and ultimately, this is crazy, ultimately draw nations to him. It's amazing. Anyway, my second observation about the kingdom: our king has absolute authority. Jesus said, do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I've not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. I mean, I don't know. Do you see what Jesus did there? I promise you that none of the religious leaders of the day who were present, the full-time church folks, the religious elite who were present that day, they saw what he did. He basically just said, yeah, the entirety of the Jewish scriptures, from the first words of Genesis to the last words of the last prophet, yeah, that's been pointing to me. Yeah, the entire history of God's interaction with mankind, yeah, that's been leading to this moment, to me. I think a lot of people who recognize that Jesus was a good teacher, because there's no way not to recognize that, may have trouble thinking that he's God. I've actually run into a lot of people who say, well, he was a good teacher, but if you read the Bible, he never actually said that he's God. First of all, that's not true. But also, he often said things like this that we today might miss the significance of, but the people in that day would have been shocked and appalled. Everyone there would have understood suddenly, wait, he's saying that all of this is about him. It's all been leading to him and fulfilled in him. They would have been amazed. I mean, you would have had to close their dropped open mouth. And he says that he's not abolishing or altering the law, but fulfilling it. I mean, that's speaking with the authority of an author to define what their book really means. Really the author of all existence to define what real life really means. Again, we could go so deep into this, but 25 minutes. My final kingdom observation is that life in the kingdom is a matter of the heart. I mean, obedience is really important. We recognize God's authority in our life and we want to obey. We also recognize that God is loving and he just wants what's best for us. He wants us to thrive and he knows how to bring that about. So yes, it's important to obey. But Jesus was speaking in a time when the entire religious power structure was centering around the obedience of laws. And I mean like hundreds of laws, more than 700 laws, which only a full-time religious person could even know, let alone obey. And yet Jesus said about these people that their hearts were evil. We'll read later in Matthew that Jesus told them that on the outside, they appeared righteous, to have a right relationship with God. But the reality was that inside, they were like tombs full of death and decay. Actually, as you read through with me, these 4 gospels that tell the story of Jesus, Jesus said some really harsh things only to one group of people, not to sinful, not to thieves, not to drunkards, not to prostitutes, only to the religious elite. And he said things like this, basically, that you're missing the point. Jesus says, essentially when he's saying, you have heard it said, he's pointing the finger at religious rule keeping, and he's saying, that's not enough. Actually, he raises the bar and points to a deeper obedience. Don't even lust, or it's equivalent to adultery. Don't even hate, or it's equivalent to murder. I mean, honestly, it sounds impossible. And it is. What Jesus is pointing to is the reality that we need an inward heart transformation that only he can provide. And it's only through that heart transformation that we can walk out obedience, not rule keeping or through our strength of will, but because we have hearts now whose greatest desire is to be like Jesus, our King. And he doesn't call us to do something he doesn't empower us to do. And of course, we find out a little bit more about what that looks like as we start hearing about the Holy Spirit later on in our journey. But this brings us to the, whoa, I'm actually 3 minutes early this time for the first time ever. I want to keep these to 25 minutes just because I want it to be easy for everybody to take a moment, hear a chapter of the scriptures, process it just a little bit, because that's all it will require to read through the entire New Testament by 2024, the end of 2024. You know, one thing that I learned this morning, I looked something up and I discovered, you know how long it takes to read the Bible? Like this great big book? If you take a year to do it, it takes 12 minutes a day. It's just pretty fantastic. Let me take a moment to check in with chat. Hey, Hawkeye, yeah, you have found some other believers here on Twitch, and we're excited to build a new kind of community here. Christoph, thank you for the technical advice. Christoph has been with me through more live streams than I can count, and hopefully we've got this figured out now. Dakoa, his anger was towards the religious leaders. Yeah. Isn't it true that so many times the people who claim to know Jesus are the greatest obstacle to people who want to know Jesus? I think that's happened so many times. And actually, I hope that's something that our little online community can help with. And Jeremy, I'm so excited that you're here with me. Oh yeah, there's a lot of scriptures where Jesus does equate himself with God. As we go through this journey on Encounter Daily, every time we hit one of those, I'm going to point that out. Well, that's it for today's Encounter Daily. I hope you can jump back in with us tomorrow. We'll take the next chapter of the Sermon on the Mount. It's chapter 6, and I'm so excited about it because like I mentioned really early at the beginning, it contains the mission statement of the kingdom. Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That doesn't mean what maybe you thought it meant. It is a life-changing thing to pray. All right, so I'll catch all of you later. Thank you so much. See you next time.